This is our presentation on Glacier National Park, Montana by Divya, Sarika, Byron, and Emma.
The geological history of Glacier National Park. So, at over 1,800 square miles, Waterton Glacier National Park in Montana is full of rocky mountains. So, the elevation varies from a low of 3,150 feet at the junction of the middle and the north forks of the Flathead River to 10,466 feet on Mount Cleveland, and this is the highest point. There are 6 peaks, and they're each over 10,000 feet, and there are 32 peaks that are over 9,100 feet that are all found in the park. So this is a result of the 1.6 billion years of Earth history and a number of geological processes, and these processes are erosion, sediment deposition, uplift, thrust faulting, and glaciation. So the geological process began with rock sedimentation, then moved on to the uplifting of mountains, and then the glaciation of the valleys. So the natural history of Glacier National Park. So Glacier National Park is home to many diverse species of animals, ranging from amphibians to mammals. The park hosts six different species of amphibians, 276 different kinds of birds, 71 species of mammals, and 4 species of reptiles. There were some stocking practices in the past, and therefore Glacier is also home to fish species that are both native and invasive, so it makes a bit of a complicated mix. Glacier is also home to an unimaginable amount of insects. The exact number is unfortunately unknown, but a small rotting log could hold multiples of thousands of different insect species. So the park is split into 2 climatic regions, the Arctic continental and the Pacific maritime. So the Pacific maritime is more prominent and during the winter produces warm winds on the east side. However, on the west side it brings lots of precipitation and moderate temperatures. The warm, wet Pacific air moves in from the west and the cold, dry Arctic air from the northeast, and they meet at the divide. The western valleys generally receive the most rainfall, but daytime temperatures can exceed 90 degrees Fahrenheit. Strong winds and sunny days often predominate the east side of the park. So the east side of the glacier is in a rain shadow and overall gets less precipitation than the west. The dryness of the east side is also a result of the high winds. The downslope winds are often 50 miles per hour or more, and they sometimes can go up to 100 miles per hour. The warm Chinook winds regularly create a temporary spring, and the temperatures raise just over 30 degrees Celsius in minutes. So, if the cold Arctic air pulls deep enough on the east side, it spills over the top and collides with the Pacific moisture, and that can cause really, really strong blizzards. Once one dumped 44 inches of snow in one day. Glacier National Park is kind of like a mixture of biomes. It ranges from lower elevation Pacific cedar hemlock forest to the high alpine tundra.
Glacier National Park is part of an ecosystem known as the crown of the continent. This basically means that it is part of an ecosystem that is untouched wilderness, and this is because all plants and animals that existed from when European explorers came to America are still there today. There are roughly 1,132 plant species, and it is primarily a coniferous forest. The 2 threatened species are the grizzly bear and the Canadian lynx, which are found in the park still. Glacier National Park also has a fire management plan, as many of the species of plants and animals there require wildfires to replenish the soil with nutrients and open up areas that allow for new plants to thrive.
Characteristics for preservation. Glacier National Park is home to many diverse species of animals, ranging from amphibians to mammals. Glacier National Park has 6 different species of amphibians, 276 different kinds of birds, 71 species of mammals, and 4 species of reptiles. The glaciers are home to species that are both native and invasive. The glacier's ecosystem is unique and carefully balanced. The animals must have their habitat intact and room for them to roam. For example, the wolverine is an important species that contributes largely to the food web. Because the park has the highest number of wolverines in the area, the park must be preserved in order to protect such species. Some other species include the beaver, bighorn sheep, elk, mountain lion, and pika. Effects on human history. The Blackfeet Indians controlled much of the prairies east of the mountains, while the Salish and Kootenai Indians lived in the western valleys. Many European explorers came to Montana area in search of beaver and other pelts. They were followed by miners and then settlers of land. By 1891, the Great Northern Railway allowed an even greater number of people into the northwest Montana. Soon, small towns developed. At the turn of the century, people started to look at the land differently. For many, the place had minerals to mine or land to farm. They realized that the area had a unique beauty. By the late 1800s, leaders like George Bird Grinnell wanted the creation of a national park. Finally, in 1910, Grinnell and others saw success when President Taft signed the bill to establish Glacier as the country's 10th national park. In addition, many Native American and European artists found inspiration in this land to create art. The feelings were and still are expressed in paintings, poetry, sculpture, and photography.
Glacier National Park is managed by the National Park Service, and they ensure that no hunting, mining, logging, removing of natural cultural resources, or oil and gas exploration occurs. And they basically say that they want to preserve and protect natural and cultural resources unimpaired for future generations. They want to provide opportunities to experience, understand, and appreciate the park consistent with the preservation of resources in a state of nature. And they want to celebrate the ongoing peace, friendship, and goodwill among nations, and recognize the need for cooperation in a world of shared resources. And they've done a very good job at doing so.
A major threat is global warming. Global warming is not only shrinking the glaciers in Montana Glacier National Park, but the climate changes threaten the park's beauty, wildlife, and economic value to the state. Since 1900, temperatures in the park have risen 2.4 degrees Fahrenheit. Of the 150 glaciers since opening the park, only 25 are left. Scientists have predicted that all 5 of the named glaciers in the Blackfoot-Jackson Basin could disappear by 2030. The park's wolverines, lynx, and mountain wildflowers are particularly vulnerable to the loss of spring snow cover. Glaciers are also important to the ecology. By storing water as ice, they provide a source of water during droughts and help regulate stream temperatures. The climate changes also bring shorter winters, earlier snowmelt, and warmer, drier summers. Cures to the threat. We can help prevent effects of climate change by reducing our carbon dioxide emissions. This means everyone can make an effort by making changes like using solar panels, recycling, walking or biking to school, or buying more locally produced foods. It's especially important to reduce our use of black carbon, which is released from things like diesel engines because it creates soot, which melts glaciers even faster. Additionally, groups like Glacier Bay implemented recycling programs, diverting 58% waste. They have adopted a no idling policy for park vehicles and are using 4 electric vehicles to reduce the demand for fuel and cut down on the related emissions. They are also replacing generators with more efficient, cleaner burning models. Government has also taken steps to slow carbon emissions by adopting the International Kyoto Protocol, calling state parties to reduce greenhouse gases. Thank you for listening.